The movie begins on a flight flying from Chongqing, China to Lhasa in Tibet. Captain Liu and his co-pilot Kai expect to make a smooth landing in about an hour. They are extra careful because the aircraft is flying at a higher altitude, which causes periodic turbulence. Everything is running smoothly until suddenly, the pilots hear a crack and see that the windshield has been slightly damaged. Liu remains calm and contacts air traffic control, informing them of their emergency. Before the operator can confirm what he heard, the crack gets bigger. In less than a second, the entire windshield breaks, setting off the air pressure in the cockpit. Co-pilot Kai is launched out through the window, and Liu leaps out of his seat to catch him. The scene abruptly cuts to a few hours earlier. Liu is in the shower, holding his breath for as long as he can. He does this every day, and can go more than 5 minutes without breathing. Does this exercise have a purpose, or is it just a sexy game he plays? Today is Liu's daughter's birthday, hence he promises to return home for the party at the end of the day. After he sets off for work, we can see the cabin crew driving to the airport. Everyone arrives in a good mood and starts pre-flight preparations. Liu is flying alongside a fairly new pilot, Kai. We are also introduced to the third pilot, Wang. They all check their vitals before meeting the rest of the crew and discussing the weather conditions and duration of the flight. Outside, the passengers wait while the airport staff does a last-minute mechanical check. The flight attendants inspect the emergency lights, oxygen masks, number of meals, and such, before reporting to the head stewardess, B. Non. In about 15 minutes, everything is prepared, and the passengers are let onto the craft. One of the flight attendants is bullied by a rude passenger when she asks him to turn his phone off. He is an internet celebrity who thinks he's entitled to do anything because he is above other passengers on board. I hope that guy dies later. B-Non helps the poor flight attendant and deals with the passenger professionally. At last, the plane takes off smoothly, making everyone believe it will be a decent flight. But little do they know what is about to come next. In the first half of the flight, the plane experiences heavy turbulence. The air traffic control has already predicted this, considering the change in weather. Hence, Liu simply calls them and asks for permission to fly at a higher altitude where the clouds won't bother them. The passengers, on the other hand, are calmed by the flight attendants, who do their job efficiently. In some time, the turbulence ends and everyone is relieved. As Liu talks to Kai about his personal life, we find out that he used to be in the army before joining the commercial airlines. Their conversation halts when they hear a noise and see the windshield is cracked slightly. They know it is not a good sign, but remain calm and contact the air traffic control immediately. The operator is about to suggest they go lower, but before they communicate, the windshield breaks completely, launching Kai outside. Liu quickly holds him back and tries to keep him inside the plane. However, the pilots struggle against the wind and pressure building in the cockpit. Simultaneously, the right engine bursts and stops working, unable to take the load of the airplane. Now, the lives of 119 passengers and 9 crew members are in the hands of Liu. Since the doors to the cockpit are closed, the passengers and the cabin crew outside do not feel the effect of the pressure change. They experience heavy turbulence, but do not think much of it since it has happened before. Everyone is asked to be seated with their seatbelts on, while Wang and B-Non try to get a hold of the pilots inside the cockpit. When they get no reply from inside, they finally register that this is not just regular turbulence. In the cockpit, Kai is mere seconds away from being thrown outside the window. Liu pulls himself together and decides to take control of the plane. Before trying to save his co-pilot, he jumps back to his seat and tries to contact the operator again. This is even more difficult because they're flying over the mountain and the plane can crash into one of them at any time. Suddenly, the airplane makes an aggressive right turn, throwing all the passengers to their side. This is when panic starts to set in, and they start strapping themselves tightly. The flight attendant helps the kids and older people on board, risking their own lives for the safety of the passengers. As Liu tries his best to control the airplane, the turbulence only gets worse. Then, he makes a harsh turn in hopes of sucking Kai back into the plane. The plan works, but it also causes the door to the cockpit to open. The air pressure inside the entire plane changes as it jerks backward forcefully. A flight attendant is thrown to the ceiling while she is trying to help a passenger. Similarly, everyone else on board is also jerked forward. The oxygen masks drop and the remaining hostesses help the passengers wear them. When the airplane stabilizes a bit, Wang moves forward, trying to get inside the cockpit to help the others. Even the rude passenger from earlier tries to push him forward when it comes to his life. Both Liu and Kai are about to pass out when Wang finally enters the cockpit. Even in such a condition, Liu does his best to keep the airplane in control, holding his breath as much as he can. Wang makes the captains wear oxygen masks, which helps them a bit, and they are able to punch in numbers to get the plane to a lower altitude. I wish my Wang was this heroic. Somewhere else, in the air traffic control office, chaos ensues when they see the plane descending at a frightening rate. The communication with the pilots is also cut off, which is a clear hint that something has gone terribly wrong. They inform the other offices to make room for the flight's emergency landing. Several flights are cancelled all across East Asia because of a chain reaction. In addition, firemen, paramedics, and many other emergency workers are sent to nearby airports to prepare for a landing. The control room also sends 3 fighter jets in search of the plane, while the pilots flying them try to contact Liu through their respective radios. The people on the ground do everything they can to find the plane and ensure the safety of the passengers and crew. But in the end, it comes down to the pilots to save everyone's lives. The door to the cockpit is now locked, stabilizing the situation on board. The passengers are in a frenzy, but they remain seated as ordered by the flight attendants. Binan comes forward to confirm the positions of her team, asking them to press the call button on the ceiling when their names are called. Everyone responds to their name, one after another, except for the last flight attendant, who had been slammed into the ceiling earlier. The others try to wake her up repeatedly, and are about to give up when she suddenly raises her hand, affirming that she is still alive. Her team sighs with relief and watches her pull herself together into a seat. They are proud of her for holding herself up, but the situation requires them to focus on the matter at hand at the moment. Binan then announces that they have lost cabin pressure and requests everyone to stay seated with their seatbelts and oxygen masks on. Meanwhile, Wang removes his mask to yell into the microphone against the air, hitting him through the broken windshield. His efforts do not go to waste as people on the ground hear about the depressurized cockpit. The operator reveals that the plane needs to descend below 3,000 meters to gain enough oxygen, but the mountains below them have an average height of 4,500 meters. This means they have to cross the entire plateau without crashing into any mountains in order to survive. With only one engine working and a depressurized cockpit, it is almost impossible to achieve such a goal. In the next hour, the news about the airplane makes it to the internet. Friends and family of people on board start panicking, trying to find as much information as they can. The plane should have landed by now, so the people coming to pick up their family members start blaming the airport employees for keeping them in the dark. In the meantime, trouble adds up when a thick cloud formation blocks the airplane from going forward. Flying above the clouds is not an option, but flying directly into the storm would be inviting death itself. This is when the passengers lose their cool and start revolting. A drunk man gets up from his seat, yelling at a crying child to stop. When the flight attendants ask him to calm down, he pushes her aside, demanding to know what is going on. He also rams a food trolley into another flight attendant, hurting her gravely. Binan comes to the scene, urging him to trust their captain, the only person who can save them at this point. The other passengers join her, making the drunk man get back to his seat and shut the hell up. Meanwhile, in the cockpit, Wang tries to keep the pilots warm while they fly the plane in circles, trying to avoid the storm. On the ground, Liu's wife is preparing for her daughter's birthday party. She is shocked upon seeing the news about the airplane, but she is positive that her husband will bring the plane back. She also assures her daughter that Liu will be back before she knows it, and they will celebrate her birthday together. At the same time, Liu's mind goes hazy, and he imagines his daughter cutting a birthday cake. The vision gets more vivid as he slowly loses consciousness, posing a great threat to the entire plane. Wang comes behind the captain and shakes him to wake him up properly. If the situation continues, everyone on board will fall unconscious. The plane will continue moving on autopilot and eventually crash when it runs out of fuel. After making several circles, Liu finally sees what he was waiting for. A tiny pathway is cleared between the clouds that he can fly the plane through. People from the control room praise his quick thinking and watch as the plane flies into the dark clouds. The turbulence gets worse and luggage starts falling from the compartments overhead. The control room watches the flight nervously until it suddenly goes off the radar. Everything goes silent as they assume that it crashed. But their prayers work, and we see the passengers are still alive somewhere between the clouds. The captain pulls a lever, propelling the plane forward with all of his might. Several minutes of silence later, chatter continues in the control room when the plane comes back on the radar. But although it got out of the storm, it is completely tilted and nowhere near stabilized. The safety of 119 passengers repeats in Liu's mind again and again, preventing him from passing out at any minute. At last, the airplane passes the clouds, and the turbulence ends. After seeing death up close, the passengers start confessing their darkest secrets to each other. A husband tells his wife that he lied to her about his job, but she forgives him instantly. He also tells her he's a furry, and she's confused. Many other people make last videos for their loved ones, hoping to say goodbye to them. In the following scene, the plane finally reaches the altitude where there is enough oxygen, and the pilots take off their masks for a better view. The connection to the control room is re-established, and they are told where to land. Every other flight around the airport is halted and landed immediately. Inside the aircraft, passengers and the crew get ready for an emergency landing, while outside, the reporters get ready to capture the descent. Seconds before they land, the passengers are fueled with a will to live. They all chant encouraging words and brace themselves for the impact. The plane finally touches down, but keeps moving towards the end of the runway. Everyone is worried that it will crash, but at the last second, all three pilots pull the lever collectively, making it come to a halt. When the suspense ends, the operators jump in celebration, but the passengers are so overwhelmed that they break into tears. Liu talks to the speaker and apologizes to everyone for the inconvenience. In turn, the passengers collectively give him a thumbs up, thanking him for saving their lives. After everyone gets off the airplane, an officer from the management bureau comes in to investigate the malfunction. It turns out that the cockpit had not been pressurized properly because the aircraft was old. Upon seeing the condition it is in, the officer calls Liu an incredible pilot and thanks him for his work. Liu gives his family a call, telling them he will be home soon. He is interrupted though because of a noise outside, which turns out to be the passengers shouting to thank him. Captain Liu and a few other cabin crew members bow to the passengers to express their gratitude. The movie ends as the passengers from Sichuan Airlines meet their family and friends, thankful for the miracle that just happened to them. Finally, we are shown pictures of the actual cabin crew who experienced this incident in May of 2018. Pictures of the real Sichuan Airlines Flight 8633 after the incident are also shown. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.